Welcome to this podcast edition. The last time that I was here, we looked at Niger Delta Securities. Like I said, we're going to have an 8-part podcast series. And the whole idea is to basically take every aspect of the 7 big wins agenda that the president launched. This edition, we're going to focus on something that interests literally every Nigerian, the refineries. It was one of the areas that we were very concerned with when we started and continues to remain a key focus here. In fact, last week, a team from ABU brought a model of refining equipment. I was so excited about it that I directed one of my agencies to give them all the financial muscle and support that they need to be able to grow that local IT and see how we can push the technology component on this. That is how concerned we are about refining. Now, what was the state of the refining when we came in? First, refining capacity was less than 10%. We managed to elevate it to about 15%, and that's where substantially it has remained. We have continued to import most of our refined petroleum products into this country. The effect of that is all the challenges in terms of pricing of petroleum products and the under-recovery or subsidy, as the case may be, that has been subject to very many interests. And then added to that, obviously, is the uncertainty about what is happening in the international refining market, coupled with the Niger Delta insecurity that we had then, unsustainable refineries that were not performing, fairly balloon contractual models that were costing the government so much money. We had our work cut out for us. And so we decided that we were going to, quite frankly, intervene in this sector in 4 main particulars. The first is to see how we can revamp our refinery. We wanted to look at modular refineries, not just for the benefit it brings in terms of refining, but the benefit it brings in terms of Niger Delta concerns. We also wanted to look at greenfield refineries, which are brand new refineries. How do we encourage private investors on their own without relying on government to go into this sector? But in the immediacy, we needed to look at the contractual models or swap arrangements that were existing then and see how we can revamp them and at least save government money in the short term. So what have we done? The first is the refinery maintenance and revamp. What we've done so far is that we've been able to get His Excellency's approval to find third-party funding through a debt structure to be able to get these refineries back to working form. So we decided everything was to bring in third-party financiers who will put in money, work with NNPC in a joint operational model, and get these refineries back from a 10% capacity to about 90% performance capacity. Today, the concept has been agreed and approved. Financing structure is largely been agreed. The financiers have largely been identified. Contractual processes are ongoing to reach the terms of those financing. We have also identified the initial builders of the refinery to be the contractors using the financing that is going to be raised from third-party financiers. But challenges continue to remain with this model. First, what is the uncertainty that by the time you finish these financials actually have the money to put on the table to go? We spent 1.5 years really since this approval was given just going through very elaborate processes. Some of those processes we've had to answer to the National Assembly, we've had to answer to the boards of NNPC, we've had to go out and talk to the financiers, but a lot of work is gone into this. Because other than just raising the money, it's got to be raised in such a way that people do not have disappointments at the end of the day. A lot of work is also going to identify what really needs to be done in the refinery, because no comprehensive structural rekit and re-evaluation had been done to even tell us what work needed to be done. We just knew it wasn't performing, but what exactly is wrong? Which of the units need to be worked on? As you go from Kaduna to Warri to Port Harcourt, the challenges are different in those 3 refineries. And so we needed to have a comprehensive look. So different from an in-house look, we brought in consultants to also take a look at what needs to happen so that you use that as a basis to negotiate with financiers and the contractors. That process is largely almost done, and we're hoping that really by the end of October, we should be in a position to have signed all the requisite agreements and be able to charter people to move in to begin to work. If we can, by the end of the year, get to a point where at least we begin the process of actual work, shut down the refineries and begin, then I think we would have achieved the objective of this in terms of beginning to revamp those refineries. Now, the second thing that we looked at was modular refineries. In this area, we've achieved much better success than the first. We registered about 40 new modular refineries. 10 of those are right on point. They've gotten to a point where they've started serious financing conclusions, serious engineering finalizations in such a way that they can go. In fact, 2 particularly, who are 70,000 barrels per day type refineries, are at a stage now where they really have started work, and we're hoping that commissioning of those 2 would at least happen anywhere between the last quarter of this year and the first quarter of next year. So on that we'll continue, and then we hope that other than those 2, the remaining 8 that are fairly advanced in terms of the process will ramp up their system in a way to be able to feature in our 2019, early 20 calculations. So on that one, we have done that. And the nice thing about that is that because a lot of those modular refineries are taking place in Niger Delta, it has also provided a moral suasive basis to be able to say to those doing illegal refinery operations in the area that the time had come to stop and integrate themselves. But at least we've been able to deliver on this, something the Vice President promised very comprehensively when we went on our tour. Now, in addition, we have moved very rapidly on some greenfield possibilities. One of that is the Nigeria refining relationship. We're almost concluding an MOU to build a pipeline from Niger to Nigeria, utilizing Niger crude, which is slightly, asset levels are slightly of lesser qualities than our own crude, so we couldn't take them into our own refineries. So we agreed to build a pipeline into the border town around the Katsina area, and then have a private sector relationship to build a refinery there, by the 100,000 barrels refinery. Both governments have largely reached an MOU. Later next month in July, the two presidents will be in Nigeria to sign off on the negotiated basis of this relationship, and then the private sector will then be asked to put in the funding that they've indicated that they have and begin. The nice thing about this is that one, is private sector driven. Two, it is government to government. Three, provides refined petroleum products to Nigeria and gets both governments in an environment where they can generate money from taxes and for operations and create work. Second is, of course, the Dangote Refinery. Working with them very collaboratively, and they've done a huge amount of work. It's probably one of the most massive constructions of refinery going on anywhere in the world. 650,000 barrels refinery. But it's not just refining oil, it's also looking at petrochemicals. It's a huge, huge complex. I've visited there twice. My staff continue to work with them and visit there once in a quarter. It is projected to be commissioned somewhere in the first to second quarter of 2020. If we succeed in getting that on, the 650,000 barrels refinery alone would capture close to about 70% of what our consumption today is. And if we then succeed in revamping our own 450,000 barrels combined capacity refineries, we would have quite frankly met the national expectations in terms of total 100% supply of refined petroleum products and begin to look to an export model. So the Dangote equation is very key. But what's also important, just like the Niger refinery, is that again, this is a pure, fantastic collaborative effort between government and private sector. Not because we're investing in it, but because we've taken additive interest in making sure that it works. It was in that same spirit that I went to Italy and met with the headquarters of the Italian oil giants NAOC, AGI, and was able to agree with their president to build a refinery in Nigeria. It will be the first multinational oil exploration company that will be doing a refinery in Nigeria, and I'm hoping others will follow suit as time goes on. And they've agreed to do a 150,000 barrels capacity refinery in Bayelsa. The joint team has been constituted, technical working groups are in place, studies are going on in terms of the costs, in terms of the engineering and all that. But if we have the Dangote one come on stream, if we have the government ones come on stream, if we have the modular come on stream, if we have the Nigeria one come on stream, if we have the Egypt one come on stream, we would have totally changed the fundamentals of where we started from, which was 4 refineries, non-performing, and nobody really paying serious attention to them, to a point where there's active attention to all these refineries, active attention at revamps, active attention at third-party efforts to build new refineries, and certainly active attention to bring in modular refineries in. And for the first time, getting oil majors to begin to look at how to invest in this sector. I can tell you that as we go through the crude oil sale policy of this country, we must get to a point where even those who produce crude as joint venture partners must take a responsibility in providing crude first for local refineries. We're going to have to come there through policy, because it does not make any sense for us to ship out all the crude in the world that we produce and leave our citizens scoring for importing refined petroleum products. If we succeed in stopping the importation of refined petroleum products, something I'm very committed to, and His Excellency the President is signed off to and is committed to, we will be saving 30 to 40% with the foreign exchange consumption in this country, which goes to importation of refined petroleum products. So the work is cut out for us. The importance is obviously there. The numbers speak for themselves, and it's something we're going to have to be working continuously. What are the things that we see would happen? We see that the likelihood is that the modular refinery, some of them will come on stream. We see that Dangote will continue to push on their refinery, which was the completion period of 2020 that we talked about. We will see increased job creation through these processes. We will see increased savings for the government. We will see increased foreign exchange savings especially. Obviously, that will help the reserves of this country. But more important, it will ginger an enormous boost into the whole manufacturing process, both in agriculture, both in manufacturing, both in movement of goods and services in this country. But more important, if we achieve it, we'll begin to look to an export model. There's absolutely no reason why Nigeria should not be the bastion for export of petroleum products all over Africa. That market is waiting. We need to hurry up. If that market is taken up by others, we'll have refineries that do not have substantial markets. But right now, the market is open. People are willing. The distance in terms of freight is very favorable to this model, and we're going to continue to work hard to pursue it. The thing where we've succeeded, obviously, is that in changing the swap model into a DSDP model, we succeeded in saving over $1 billion at the time. From where we came, for what we've done, our visibility in terms of where we're going, we think we have our hands rounded on the refinery issue, but a whole lot of work still needs to be done. Thank you very much for watching. This is bringing you up to date on the refining issue. Next stage, we'll look at something else under the 7 big wins. Goodbye.